Hey folks, Quill18 here, bringing you another audio commentary for League of Legends. You may be wondering why we're starting in the bush here. Well, the reason is the enemy team has a Warwick, and most Warwicks start off by jungling by picking up this blue buff, so we had all come over here to ambush him, and he never showed up. So usually this is a great idea. In this case, it didn't really work out for a gank, but it still means we're going to steal their blue buff, which is still an excellent idea, and in fact, I ended up getting it. We're going to do that, and then we're going to go to our own respective lanes. Now, you're going to see what we do here is actually we leave one of the lizard mobs intact, and the reason we do that is so that this spot, the blue buff, will not respawn. So long as you leave one mob alive, it's just going to stay that way until someone comes along and finally kills that mob, and only then will the respawn timer for the blue buff start. So it really cripples their side if you use that strategy. It's not something that comes up very often, but a Warwick is almost virtually guaranteed to be a jungle character, so it works out nicely there. So, I am playing as Fiddlesticks, obviously, and I'm going to talk about that more in a moment. I'm playing a game here with my friend Briarstone again, and another player, Syclia, S-Y-C-L-I-A. And this is another viewer who had added me to his friends list, so we played a game together. This was actually quite some time ago. And we're actually on vent with Syclia, so I've got to have the in-game volume turned quite low so that the speech doesn't overwrite one another. Oh, he's gonna die to the bomb! Shit. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on here. I'm playing as Fiddlesticks. This is one of the very few games I've ever played with Fiddles. I have a hard time playing offensive casters. I can do support casters, but I have a hard time playing people like this. So Fiddlesticks, Annie, I'm not very good at, but I've had a lot of requests for games with Fiddlesticks, so this is why I was playing as Fiddles. I actually find him very interesting, and he reminds me a lot of a World of Warcraft Warlock, and I like playing Warlocks in World of Warcraft, so I always thought I'd be a natural here, but it hasn't really quite worked out. Nonetheless, I want to play this game. Now, this is before the most recent patch, which nerfed Fiddlesticks pretty hard. Well, I guess, you know, it nerfed him. Maybe it's not a huge difference one way or another, but, you know, it may make a slight difference in how I play this game. So, Fiddlesticks, he's got three abilities. He's got a fear. It's a fairly short duration fear effect. I think at rank 1 it's only 0.5 seconds. I think once it gets to rank 5 it goes all the way up to 2.5 seconds. He has a life drain ability, and he has his... Wow, I keep bombing Syclia, the guy playing as Singed, whenever I got the time bomb on me. It's kind of terrible. Yeah, and then he's got the, I can't remember the name of it right now, but his crow that he fires off that bounces around to multiple targets. An interesting thing about the crow is the crow always does 100 points of damage per bounce, plus a little bit for your AP. Oh, I might get Warwick here. No, I don't think so. Nope, no hope. I gotta get away before I die. Luckily, I've got enough mana for a drain. Yeah, no kills. Anyway, what was I saying? Yes, the crows do 100 damage per bounce, and they scale a little bit with AP. And every time you level up, it adds 2 more bounces. Before the patch, it was, I think it started at 3 bounces, and every rank added an extra 2 up to a maximum of 11. Now that has been decreased by 1, so you start off with 2 bounces, and it goes all the way up to 10. But it scales up really nicely that way, because it just has a very, very high base damage. And if you can ever get in a situation where it's bouncing between 2 heroes, you will do, you know, potentially 500 damage to each, plus whatever amount for your AP. And that brings us to an interesting point. It appears as though Fiddlesticks scales poorly with AP, because you look at all his powers, and, you know, it's like 0.2 extra damage per AP, or 0.4, or whatever. I don't know the numbers. And so it appears as though he scales very poorly, but it's deceptive because... While it doesn't add much damage per bounce, you get so many bounces that ultimately you get more than 1 point of damage per point of AP. And the same thing goes with his drain life. The scaling you see for the drain life is per tick of the damage. Why didn't I finish this off? Oh, it's because I felt I had to come back and help out here. Yeah, it's per tick of damage of the drain life, so it actually adds up to a substantial amount of damage. I think it ends up being a flat 1-to-1 scaling or something like that, because I think a drain life does 5 ticks. I'm not sure. Wow, I gotta be careful here. I'm ignited too. That's bad. Am I gonna die? Can I drain something? Ooh, just live.
They both have ignite, but I think they both use it now.
Yeah, so he actually scales deceptively well with AP, so that's not something you really have to worry about. Of course, there's an argument to be made that he scales better with magic penetration, and the reason is everyone scales better with magic penetration. It's awesome. It's the stat that you should get for everyone. Fiddles actually starts with an aura. His passive is an aura that reduces magic resistance around him, which is super good. And which means that Fiddlesticks actually combos well with other spellcasters. Of course, you've got to be careful when you're stacking spellcasters because people can counter you as a group just by getting a significant amount of magic resistance, or like a Banshee's Veil, that sort of thing. As you can see, we have warded our own lizard, and I think I've got a vision ward. I'm going to go and ward the blue buff because, again, they've got a Warwick who's going to be jungling, so if we can ward the common aura spots, we'll see if Warwick is there killing it, and we can go and try to gank him as he does so. Not only will he be alone in the jungle and therefore vulnerable, but he'll be in the middle of fighting some mobs. Oh, Singe died again.
400 damage time bombs.
Zillion is such a beast when he's played well, and he's sneaky. He's unless you're really in a good shape to deal with his abilities, like if you're really used to them,
Oh man, I'm doing this.
it's okay. But a lot of people aren't prepared to deal with that sort of delayed damage, so they'll fight until they get low, and then they start to pull back, which is normally fine. Except then they've got a time bomb, so by the time they pull back, they're already dead. They just don't know it yet. So, how I play Fiddlesticks is probably not how a lot of people play Fiddles. Again, I've had some difficulty with casters, so while, I've seen plenty of Fiddles be unbelievably deadly by stacking, I don't know, Drain Life and Fear and that sort of things, and just become an excellent ganker and killer, I can't really do it very well. I can't usually get off a full duration Drain Life. People run away from me. I have a hard time managing it. I have a hard time knowing when the right time to cast it is. So I max out the Crow ability. The one that bounces around, does good damage, also does the silence. And the reason I do it is because it really helps me push and maintain a lane. It helps you harass because, you can get those lucky bounces onto the champions and do damage to them. It's great for helping to shut down spellcasters, and it does get you a lot of money and protects your tower. I mean, you can solo lane with just that Crow, assuming that you've got enough mana regen to cast it reliably. Yeah, so it's really good and it really works for me. It's kind of the ability for dummies, in that it doesn't take a lot of intelligence to really use it and still be effective, because all you got to do is target someone, shoot it, and it's going to hit everything.
And probably a bunch of magic.
One thing that's really good is those level 1 ganks in a lane when there's, the two of you are hiding in a bush and the enemy team is coming towards you, the pair of them, and you're going to try to do a gank. Doing it with Fiddles, especially before the nerf, was really effective because you could shoot the Crow out and it would guarantee 2 hits on one person, 1 hit on someone else, so someone would start the fight down 200 hit points. Well, that's like 50% health for a lot of characters. Okay, here Singe gets killed, but I'm able to Storm Crow, doing my ultimate into the bush. We'll talk about the ultimate in a second here. So that was effective. That's one of my biggest issues as Fiddlesticks, is I have a hell of a time getting off that ultimate in such a way that is really effective. And I think that's something that just takes a lot of practice.
Because of the failed jungle Warwick,
The Crow, the Storm Crow, the ultimate, can single-handedly win team fights, but you have to do it right. You can't start too early or you're just going to get focused and killed. If people have stuns up, it's going to be a bad thing. So as Fiddles, you cannot afford to initiate a fight. You sort of have to stay hidden, wait until the fight is well established and people have locked onto their targets, and then go in. And I think that's one of my biggest problems with casters in general, is that doesn't work for me. I like to be an initiator, I like to be a harasser, and so I end up finding myself in the front lines far too often, and I get myself killed as Fiddlesticks. So you really have to play a little more sneaky. Here we're going to try to wrap around and kill Zillion. I get off the Stormcrow for a silence. There's the Fear, there's the Slow, there's the Drain, and yet, look, he's going to get away. Oh, thank God for Singe. Now, he's got his ultimate up, so he's going to try to get away again. I'm really low on mana. Auto attack, I've got a Fear up. I think I'm going to try to get Fear. I can't. I'm being, I think Malphite slowed me, so I did get a Fear on him to just be a little bit more defensive, but not quite able to contribute all the way. Still, the lane's going well. What kind of items to get on Fiddlesticks? Well, I've already talked about the fact that he does scale well with AP.